Fantastic. My name is Daniel Schoonmaker. I'm the Executive Director of the Sustainable Business Forum. And I want to welcome you all to our second in our sustainable, uh, safe and sustainable foodware webinar series. Green Restaurants, which is fittingly happening today on St. Patrick's Day. I struggled to find my green hat, but I am wearing my green shirt to talk about green restaurants. Now, if you are not familiar with the Sustainable Business Forum, our organization is a collaboration of business institutions. We're going to promote practices that advance climate leadership, social justice, and the creation of a circular economy. Or if you prefer, the triple bottom line of people, planet, profit. We host events and programs throughout Michigan, Northern Indiana, and occasionally Chicagoland, including this Safe and Sustainable Foodware webinar series, which is part of uh, a grant program in partnership with the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, funded by EPA fiscal year 23-24 pollution prevention grant through the University of Illinois Chicago Institute for Environmental Science and Policy. If you are not yet a member of the forum, certainly invite you to become one today. You'll find the link on your screen and in the chat shortly. And I would like to invite you to the upcoming sessions of this webinar series, Closing the Loop with Certified Compostables, and Engaging Staff and Customers in the Transitions. You can find more information about these events at the links in the chat or at misbf.org/events. Now I'd like to introduce our program for today, Safe and Sustainable Foodware Green Restaurants. For our attendees, please note that you can share thoughts and questions with a panelist or all attendees through either the Q&A function or the chat function. We'll have time at the end of the presentation for open questions and answers. And at the presentation, or at the end of our presentation as well, we'll be introducing some of the technical assistance opportunities that are available through our partnership with the EPA and the University of Illinois Chicago. So to get us underway, I'd like to introduce our first speaker of the day, Kate Martini, Assistant Professor at Western Michigan University. Kate, thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for having me. Very exciting. Okay, let me get my slides going here. Okay, just confirming you can see that okay?
We look all set here, Kate.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'll do a little bit of some background info about why I'm here talking to you all today. So I have a PhD in behavior analysis with a focus in sustainability. I'm an assistant professor in the psychology department at WMU. I work specifically in the OBM program. So that stands for Organizational Behavior Management. We specifically work on setting up organizational systems to create behavior change for groups of people. So this fits in really well. I previously worked as a sustainability specialist in the brewing industry. I led the team that implemented the compost program at Bell's Eccentric Cafe, if you're familiar. I also headed up waste diversion efforts at Arcadia Creek Festivals before that. So I've got lots of lessons learned, done some research, excited to be here and share some info that is hopefully helpful. So a bit of an agenda. So I'm going to talk a bit about being strategic about choosing items to start with when you're thinking about compostable disposables from a restaurant or food service standpoint. We'll talk a bit about bin design, signage design, and some ways to approach your initial training and startup of a compostables program. So first off, I'm hopefully preaching the choir here, but this just deserves to be said out loud. Have a plan for where your items will go. Determine where all of your, if you're switching to compostable items or thinking about it, you need to know exactly where they're going to be processed. So there's some evidence that items designed to be composted actually increase GHG emissions when they end up in landfill. So it drives me absolutely insane when restaurants use compostable to-go containers in cities where there's no municipal compost system because there's no method for those items to actually be composted. Most of them are designed for an industrial compost system. This is a picture of Hammond Farms in Michigan, which I know you'll learn more about this process in other sessions. But whatever you do, make sure that you know the final destination for the items that you're planning to purchase. So I want to make a plug for choosing your items strategically by thinking about your waste streams as an entire system together. So there's lots of options out there. Obviously, you've got recyclable versus compostable. Reusable is truly, if we're thinking from a GHG emissions standpoint, reusable is the lowest GHG emissions that you can implement. But as you're planning for these items, always think about the sorting requirements that you'll be requiring for your staff or your customers. An accurate sorting of waste should be your very first consideration to make sure those items that you are purchasing actually end up where you intend them to go. And the sorting requirements is the first place to start. And so imagine if you have like a compostable sauce cup, but you end up with recyclable lids for those sauce cups. Know that requiring people to take that lid off, put it in recycling, and then compost the cup itself, you will never get 100% compliance in your sorting requirements. And that's no one's fault. Like, this is just the nature of behavior. There's many things influencing us all at one time, especially in busy food service settings. So the requirements for sorting need to be as simple as possible, and you should always be comparing the pros and cons of using items that are recyclable versus compostable versus reusable, and imagining what that end of the line sorting effort that you are asking people to do looks like. As an example, we recently did a research project on campus. This was part of a student's master's thesis where we attempted to capture paper cups separately from other recycling items in one of our campus cafes. So there was this 3-step process for recycling. They had to take the lid off, dump out the liquids, put the cups in a specific bin. As you can imagine, this is pretty intense requirements. We only capture about 50% of cups. The rest were kind of spread across our other categories of waste. And we were also collecting liquids separately. So we ended up recommending at the end of this project, the amount of liquid we found was tolerable for a recycling handler. So our recommendation is let people put all of those items into recycling. They can take the cups, they can handle the liquid and everything else. So another plug, simplify your sorting requirements. So let's talk a little bit about how that ties into bin design. It has been proven over and over that as you design these systems for accurate sorting, if you can create stations where all of your categories of waste are close together, you will always increase the accuracy of what goes into those bins. On campus, the research that we've done specifically with some of these stainless steel stations, we see a 30 to 40% increase in the accuracy of what's getting sorted just by implementing these stations, doing nothing else, same signage, same everything, just putting a station in place. Again, this is due to effort. If we're requiring people to walk past an open bin to get to another location, it just won't happen 100% of the time. Things will end up in that bin that weren't intended for it. So this goes a bit, I think, against assumptions that some people make. People want to gravitate towards making recycling or compost like very high visibility and separate from other like landfill items. But that just results in trash going into those bins because they're high visibility and they're easy to find. So make stations when you can. Also, the characteristics of the lids plays a really interesting role in accuracy of sorting. So if you have specifically shaped waste streams, like you just want cups, make your lid a circle if you can. So not only is it kind of like that kids game where you're like matching the blocks with the different shapes, but it also makes it so other items literally can't fit. There's a really interesting study that was done in a busy university cafeteria where they had stations set up, and they had issues with their compost getting contaminated regularly. So they used this extra effort kind of concept to their benefit. And so within that station, they added a lid to just their compost bin, and it fixed the problem. So just some ways to think about your strategy with designing stations. And for signage, first off, just as kind of a general rule, the research has found that using photos or actual physical items as examples rather than text is the most effective way to create well-designed signage that will increase accuracy of these items. But this is truly where your choices of what types of disposables and the variety that you have within your system, this is where that comes into play. So simplifying that sorting requirement really helps. So if you're finding that you have to provide a ton of instructions and details on your signage, understand you'll get less compliance. So this is where that simple sorting really comes in. So the sign on the left here, that's here at WMU. These are public buildings. We don't know what people have in their hands, so we have to have a million details on these signs. There's words, there's pictures, there's a lot. On the right, this is a 2017 photo from Bell's Eccentric Cafe. There's just a couple things on that sign. The magic of having a contained setting like a restaurant or a food service space, you have complete control over what people have in their hands to toss. So it's a really great method for making that point in time really simple, really clear, putting exact pictures of your items on the signs or the items themselves on the signs. And then one more quick example from the Eccentric Cafe. This is a picture of the full station itself. And so the decision here was made to keep cups separate because we had an awesome recycling partner for them. And the only reason this worked so well was because there were only two requirements here. Everything we were giving customers was compostable. So you can toss your entire plate, whatever's on your plate goes in compost, and then stack your cup in the tube. So if it were more complicated than that, we weren't giving people we weren't handing out any landfill. So there were just really those two requirements. And if we had asked for more, they don't even have enough hands or space to really comply with that. So a nice example of a little bit of effort worked well because it was strategic. And then lastly, with signs and these kind of systems and stations in general, color coding is really a great way to help people identify categories of waste and bins, especially in food service and restaurant spaces that are kind of dynamic and bins are moving around. So if you can pick a color for each category, coordinate your signs and bins as much as possible, that is very helpful. So these are some examples from Arcadia Creek Festival site where we did just that. Their sorting requirements were very difficult at this, so we also had some bin goalies, but I just love how clear some of the signage was and color coding that we were able to do here. So as you think about transitions for waste streams, I want to challenge people and put out there that you should really be doing more than just verbal or written training. That's really the least effective way to train people on new items, new categories. Especially if you're making huge changes like implementing entire compost materials in a new compost stream. Some fun and more effective ways to train and engage with staff, creating some practice sessions. So actually practicing sorting behavior can be really effective. I have found myself cutting up little examples for people to put in fake bins during, like 5-minute training sessions. In a really large group setting, we've done kind of a game where people are holding signs in their hands and we hold up examples and then they hold up signs for what category they think those items should go in. And that's where learning actually occurs rather than just being told or given something to read. So you can also make it fun with like teams and points if you want, kind of make it a game. Some other ways, so you need to think past this kind of like training event as well and create some structured check-ins, some structured Q&A. So some ways to do that. you can do this, like plan for regularly checking in during meetings. In some spaces, we've used bulletin boards for communication. This works great if you have people on multiple shifts or you're not in a building all the time. You can see here there's like a envelope up here and a napkin, like curious what goes in compost, what can go in recycling. And so people could just post stuff on the board and I would answer with little sticky notes. So this is a kind of a fun interactive way that you don't have to be all at the same place at the same time. And then designating some ownership and some monitoring and creating some feedback systems works well too. So people don't know what they don't know all the time. And so giving them information about their performance opens the door for those conversations and questions. So getting people involved with waste audits. This is a little bit small, but that bottom left picture there, there's a little circle on that bin. So that has a display of the accuracy percentage for that station. So people could understand how their behavior actually contributed to the accuracy of what went in there. And then we see these really fun things like on the right, the bottom right here. These were signs that employees were just kind of making up on their own to help guide behavior of other employees with issues that they were seeing because they now knew exactly what was supposed to go into some of these categories. So think about some ownership, monitoring, use a feedback system. Those are all great ways to engage and work on accuracy of item sorting once you've made the change. So that is, I've got my contact info here. I'm happy to answer questions afterward, but also feel free to email me. And I have a bunch of references. So all of the research that I just mentioned, I've got referenced here as well. So thank you.
Thank you again, Dr. Kate Martini of Western Michigan University, formerly of formerly of Bell's. We'll be turning back to her in the question and answer period in a few moments. But first, wanted to share the stories of a few companies who have done this successfully. Starting with a nut. Sorry, my stutter is kicking in there. Another famous brewery. So I'd like to turn it over to Kris Spaulding, owner of Vivant and Broadleaf Brewery and Spirits, both in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Kris, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Kate. I just learned a bunch of stuff from Kate, so I love that. That's always good to see who we learn from. All right, let me share myself here. So I'm Kris Spaulding. Our real name is One Beer at a Time, trying to make a difference one beer at a time. But Brewery, Vivant, and Broadleaf, we just celebrated 15 years at Vivant, so opened in 2010. Here's a couple brands. And just for anyone who's not familiar with us, we started the brewery with the intent of having a lot of goals around sustainability to keep us accountable to being the type of company we want to be. So these are the main ones that we report on each year. Highlighting today our zero waste to landfill, which means we try to recycle and compost as much as we can. And then 75% of our spend being with Michigan companies. That one maybe isn't directly related to the conversation today, but I think is an important one just to remind people of the power of how you spend your dollars. And, the more local dollars you spend, the more you're supporting the community that you're a part of. Every year we do a report on our progress towards the goals. So we used to launch it on today, on St. Patrick's Day is our version of green beer. But now we're launching it more in April. So I'm still working on the 2025 numbers, but that'll be posted on our social media and website. And then, so you have some familiarity with our product. If you're out in the market, here's what are some of our most popular beers, just for fun. Okay, so the real conversation here is about our takeaways with our products that we're using for takeout and for people that get a doggy bag to go home with. Really what I wanted to talk about is how do we decide what types of products we're using. So the first thing we think about is what fits our brand. Because we're focused on sustainability, styrofoam was never something we would consider using. So that's an easy one there. And then it's really the question of, these next steps of recycling versus recyclable versus compostable. I like to think about what is best for the customer experience. And when I say customer, really, I'm meaning the food itself. So as an example, if you have, everyone's used to seeing the clamshells. If you put your leftovers in a clamshell and you put that in your fridge, there's so much airflow within that material that it'll dry out in the fridge. And then the food, when you reheat it the next day for lunch, is not going to be as tasty as it should be. So depending again on, what is that food. So we do use a lot of clamshells, but I like to ask our staff to think about how is that experience going to be the next day for that person. And I personally, just as a reference point, if I get leftovers in a clamshell, I always, when I get home, I put them in my glass Tupperwares. So thinking of my food experience. Also, we think about, of course, the cost. So what is the cost of these takeout containers, and how does that add to the cost of the food itself? Always something that has to be considered. What do our suppliers keep in stock? So if we run out, can we easily replace, whatever it is we're getting? If we have to run to a store or something like that. So those are the main things that we're thinking about in terms of, what do we want to offer? Here's an example of one other decision point. So this is our duck nachos, which we're most famous for at Vivant. As you might guess, nachos are not something that really transfer well as a takeout product. So not only do we think about what containers to use, but we also think about, are there any of the foods that we offer that really shouldn't be takeout? And duck nachos is something that we won't have as a takeout option because the quality of that food doesn't do as well once you get it to your house, right? So when the shutdown happened during COVID, we had, takeout was the only way we could do things. So we had to really think about, is there a way we can sell this product in a way that doesn't wreck the experience for the customer on the other end? And we did get creative with that, but it required using more units of takeout materials than, we would normally like. Here's an example of what our little takeout area looks like at our Kentwood broadleaf facility. So lots of different things there. You can see, broadleaf, we have a bit of an Asian flair to the menu. So at the top, you can see there's the paper, like Chinese takeout containers. Those are something, again, going back to the brand, those make sense for broadleaf, but we wouldn't use that type of container at Vivant because that's more of European style food and it doesn't really match the brand. That said, we use those soup containers. They're compostable with the lid. We have the clamshells. We try to use paper straws for our cocktails at the places, or compostable straws for the ones that are more plasticky. All our stuff goes in paper bags instead of plastic bags. So just thinking about each of those things. And then, another big thing that you don't see here is we buy a lot of compostable garbage bags because we do have a lot of compost at all our facilities. So making sure that they go in the right bag is important. Just a closer up shot. And then I just wanted to end with, who are the partners that we're working with? So in Grand Rapids, Organicycle has been a great partner with compost. They do have the commercial focus, but they also do a lot with residential. So kind of to Kate's point about, if you're using compostable materials and they're just going in the landfill, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Obviously not great. But in our area, you do have the option to compost. So I'm hoping that our customers who use our takeout containers or putting them in their Organicycle bins. And then recycling, we use aero waste for the actual, takeout materials themselves. We use BBC and Gordon's. They both offer, lots of different options. So those are the main partners within this conversation. And that's really all I have. Happy to take questions later. There's my contact info if you have any questions.
Thank you so much, Kris. And we'll have we'll have Kris back in a few moments to take questions in our Q&A period. Now I'd like to welcome our final speaker of the day, Brittany Goode, Sustainability Manager at Aldea Coffee, which has locations in Grand Haven and Muskegon, Michigan.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Brittany.
Let me get this pulled up here. Awesome. Does that look okay for everyone?
You're looking great.
Okay, cool. All right, my name is Brittany. I run operations and most of our sustainability initiatives, as well as our B Corp certification here at Aldea Coffee. I've been with the company for a little over 10 years now, so got to be a part of every step of the way and everything that you'll see in this presentation here today. And special call out to my colleagues, Ellie Kite and the two owners, Andrew Boyd and Jeremy Miller. They've both been along the road for this as well. And it's been a big journey, but I feel really good about where we're at and where we're headed. Just a little background on us. We started as a nonprofit in Honduras. In 2009, we were working with coffee farmers doing microloans when we realized that importing specialty coffee would be really great. And with that came our two coffee shops, bringing roasting in-house, and our new warehouse facility in Muskegon. We have two coffee shops, one in Grand Haven, right downtown, and the other in Muskegon, also right downtown. And in 2020, we became a certified B Corp. And just to note, I don't get too much into the B Corp certification in this, but it is really the driving force behind most of our decisions when it comes to sustainability and our team. Just a couple of highlights here, and we can send this out a little bit later, but with this particular topic of how our restaurant is on the side of green, I would say working with Organicycle, recyclable coffee packaging, working with the Grand Valley students. We've done that for probably 7 or 8 years. And through those projects, they've given me a lot of research and time that helped us make some big decisions. Our roastery is now solar paneled. So we're super excited to have savings when it comes to our biggest location and where we're using the most energy. So I'm going to take you through our coffee shop and just how this all looks for us. And this is the front door of our Grand Haven Cafe. You can see that right off the bat, you have the B Corp certification logo right there. As soon as you walk in to the left, you'll see that there is a big beverage cooler. We believe that water should be accessible and free for everyone, but we understand that having access to water bottles downtown Grand Haven is a bit of a challenge. So we found this company, Open Water, and they are a 1% for the Planet company, and those water bottles are sturdy and able to be reutilized. So if you purchase it in our cafe, then you can come back later. And as you can see in the photo on the right there, you can refill it from our water tap that we installed a couple years ago. We also do have cups for you to drink water in the cafe on that platform there, as well as plastic cups if you need to take it with you. But we really encourage people to stay in the coffee shop as much as we possibly can. Our tea tins are also refillable. So we started that probably about 5 years ago. And if you buy the tea in the cafe, you can bring it back and our team will refill the tea tin for you. So just another way to save on the packaging. Our coffee packaging project took us a couple of years to come to the final conclusion, which we landed on a number 4 PCR material bag. That means post-consumer recycled materials. This was really important to us because we want all of our sustainability practices to be as accessible as possible. And as many of you may know, on the lakeshore, we don't have access to commercial composting regularly. But most of our residential and communities do have a place for number 4 plastics to be recycled. And we had confirmed that with Republic that they can go into those bins. So on the bottom picture there, you can see we have our customers return the packaging to us. Therefore, we have control of making sure that that gets into a recycling bin at one of our homes. Also a note, when we were looking at that, it's a matter of not only what's going to work best for the coffee shop, but what's going to work best for all of the avenues of our business. So we have a comprehensive wholesale program where we provide coffee for many different locations, restaurants, businesses, churches. We're in Bridge Street Market in Grand Rapids. So we wanted to make sure that if the package is accessible for us here on the Lakeshore, let's make sure that it's accessible for everyone in all of those outlets as well. And online, you can order the coffee. And so at that point, they can give it to their residential recycling, which most people have access to. This picture is noting that everything that is transported from our warehouse on Getty Street in Muskegon out to each of our cafes is completely reusable. So nothing that is transported between the two gets thrown away. Everything gets washed and reutilized. So that's our coffee. The buckets have all of our bulk coffee in them. We use to make all of our drip coffees and our espresso and everything like that. In the next photo, you can see like lemonade and switchel, all of our baked goods coming in reusable containers, and then even our syrups, right? All of our syrups are made in-house, completely fresh. So all of that being able to be stored in glass feels really good to us to just have less plastic in general touching those products if we can. It's always a tricky thing with glass and breakage, but we have found that those mason jars hold up pretty well for us. And then also to note on that, with all of our products being made in-house, we have a lot of control over where those ingredients are coming from. So I think the jar you can see there, it says simple syrup. It's literally just Demerara sugar and water. So as clean as possible. Composting has been a journey for us. We've worked with the Michigan Sustainable Business Forum on this project for a very long time. I am starting to feel like there's some momentum coming for us, but we do what we can, just the same as other people in the area, especially like Kris said, composting as much as we possibly can. So when we started in 2015, we were composting immediately with local farmers. We worked with local farmers for quite a few years. And just in the last couple, we've been able to start working with Organicycle. So their bins are at our warehouse in Muskegon, and as much as possible is sent to the warehouse to be composted with Organicycle. In this picture, these buckets are still picked up by a local farmer. And honestly, that relationship of having a local farmer to work with and who brings us plants and vegetables, sometimes like that partnership and relationship has worked out very well for us and is just really a part of what Aldea does and who we are. And Organicycle has been fantastic to work with. And they also will be speaking at the Earth Day celebration again this year, giving a little more background on what they do. And they are just absolutely fantastic and so knowledgeable. One of our biggest initiatives that really gets the customers engaged in our process of sustainability is our Gaia Star Cup initiative and travel mugs. So we really encourage people to bring in their reusable mugs. We started that right out of the gate in 2015. But over the last couple of years, we were introduced to these Gaia Star cups. So it is a clay cup made of just clay and water. It's about $3 to buy it. And you can use it for as long as you can until it breaks. So it really cuts down on the need to use a paper cup in the cafe. You can just have this cup with you. We'll wash it for you if needed. And just this last year, they also brought out a silicone lid. And what I really love about that is that the lids fit on other travel mugs as well. I had lost one from one of my cups. It was absolutely one of my favorite cups. And so I've been able to use this new lid on that cup as well. So it's not only working for the clay cup, but also for all of your cups at home. So really encouraging that. And so we saved 12,000 cups out of the landfill in 2026. Actually, that should say 2025. So 2025 is 12,000. For 2026, we are looking to save 15,000. What's interesting about that is I purchase all of our packaging in bulk. So we have the paper cups, the plastic cups, everything that we need for to-go packaging for the year. And it's been kind of interesting to see the initiative of bringing in your own cup and how that's affecting how often I have to buy and order. And it's affecting it a lot. I bet I ended up ordering about 6 months later than I needed to because we've been saving so many cups out of the landfill by using either the clay cup or your favorite mug from home. Just wanted to go over our current challenges here. We're still fighting for commercial mixed recycling at both of our cafes, commercial composting routes for our cafes, and just overall connecting with the cities and the counties. Myself, I sit on as many committees as I can and work with the city as closely as I can here in Grand Haven. And my colleague Elizabeth just started working with the county, Muskegon County's Sustainability Committee. I feel that working with the counties and cities directly really will help continue to push these initiatives. We've seen the social districts getting a little bit better with signage and things like that. And we just want our communities to be clean. And the sooner that we can get reusables into more restaurants, the better. And that's all I have for you.
Thank you so much, Brittany. Before we go on, I'm going to share a couple quick slides that explain the program that we have underway and how we're hopeful to support this effort. And in the meantime, please drop any questions that you have into the in, in, into the Q&A or chat. And my colleague Carrie Veltman will be collecting those. And Carrie, as a quick check, I should be showing my screen. Is that what's happening?
You are good.
Thank you so much. So I want to give credit to Dr. Ding Ai, who's a associate professor of urban planning policy at the Institute for Environmental Science and Policy of the University of Illinois Chicago, who is the principal on this effort. Again, our project is promoting environmental health justice through sustainable food service products. And for the record, given for when we're at what point we're going to be starting the recording, just want to emphasize again that this is something that's supported by the EPA, and the work products and views that we are expressing today are not necessarily reflective of official opinions of the agency and not been reviewed by the agency. So our objective in this initiative, we're trying to assist restaurants in adopting sustainable PFAS-free packaging solutions. Now, we coming into this through a environmental public health perspective and a toxins reductions perspective. But when we're talking about foodware and sustainability in restaurants, that intersects with many different issues of equivalent and often accessible importance, such as zero waste to landfill. And through our effort, our general methodology, especially what's happening at the university, is evaluating, documenting, and developing resources for transition and substitution, with a general goal of bringing those recommendations out to food businesses and institutions. What we've been working on over the past year and a half, developed a project transition from traditional singular focus on a product practice to a systems dynamic approach, promoting consumer-driven sustainability, develop community-engaged, context-specific, data-driven research and power sustainability efforts, with a focus on minority-serving institutions and minority-led restaurants in the three-state area of Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan. And this is the effort that our organization is supporting that is being led by the University of Illinois Chicago. Now, what the products that the forum is specifically is bringing out, and well, we're looking forward to being able to talk about the academic and research-focused components of this work in a future webinar. We're currently working to identify and document benefits of substitution and various substitution. We are developing resources to support substitution and the transition of foodware and adoption of foundational sustainability practices, like composting, for instance, or employee training, or the just general general implementation of sustainability planning, without which any of these other transitions or practices become much more difficult. We are shortly going to begin onboarding people into an on-site and virtual technical assistance program. We're currently working through a half dozen pilot projects, and if you're listening today and are at a food service operation that is seeking technical assistance, or have an influential position, so say you're at a municipality or at a supported program, and you're looking for these type of resources, we have a team that is available to work with you and provide recommendations in English and Spanish. We're also trying to bring out this information through the webinar series you're currently participating in, a series of partner presentations through local chambers of commerce, Rotary clubs, downtown development authorities, culinary local chapters, culinary, so the culinary associations, anywhere we can find an opportunity to talk about this. And if you have an opportunity, please let us know, as well as in-person events. And finally, we have a number of partnerships with diverse business organizations, and we're currently offering a series of in-person and virtual events in Spanish in both Metro Detroit and the Greater Grand Rapids area. And we'll be having a webinar later in the year that's available in Spanish as well. And so please keep an eye out in the follow-ups for information to how to become involved in the technical assistance program, and keep an eye out through this webinar series for additional information about what we're developing with our university partners, because we think we're going to have some really cool tools coming out of this. And with that, I'd like to bring back Brittany, Kris, and Dr. Martini to begin our Q&A to wrap up our session today. Now, before we go away, I actually have a question for the three of you as well, that came out of it today. And there was a good bit of discussion about the thoughtfulness of where your products go after the facility, and the availability for end of life resources. So recycling options, composting options currently play into the decisions that you're making on materials that you know are going to be going out, as much as performance and in ensuring that the second life of those duck nachos and such is good. So I wanted to ask, as far as how your organizations have approached this and how you might recommend others do so. How do you go about gathering and understanding the local infrastructure? Because this, if you're not part of the industry, this may be something that's new or foreign to people who are running a restaurant, so they don't necessarily have to think about what's available in their region. And how do you then assess what you're seeing? And Kate, maybe you would like to start us off on that?
Yeah, I can. I think waste audit is really the first answer there, right? Like figuring out, because part of that decision too, I know, like from a business standpoint, you need to understand how much of each of those materials are in your waste stream, so that when you reduce one and you increase another, how will that shift your cost? And not only just looking at that purchasing cost, but looking at the disposal cost too. So yeah, I think waste audits are always a great way to start, and just asking questions to service providers. And I mean, Our recycling program here on campus, and we have a little baby composting program as well, has been around for a really long time, and we're still learning things. And things are always changing in the industry, right? And like the materials that they can handle are always changing. So like keeping that conversation going with service providers and always asking questions, I think pays off too.
Thank you. Kris or Brittany, do you have any thoughts on that?
Okay. I just wanted to say that I agree with her about the waste audits. We had the Grand Valley students run that for me, and that's when I learned that our hot cups were the biggest problem in all of our waste streams, just the amount of them that are going through the cafes. And then Rose also asked a question about just how often like evaluating these concepts, and Kate noticed as well, like there's a lot of changes happening consistently. So I try to dig into it at least every year, if not every other year, just to make sure that what we're doing is what we want to continue to do. And then working with the cities in order to get those waste streams organized and figured out, like we're going to have to work with the municipalities and counties in order to do that. And so I really recommend that people get involved with that, visit your city councils, ask these questions, because a lot of the cities don't have the infrastructure or the money to make it happen. And I just wanted to note that I just learned this last week that at the Muskegon Farmers Market, they are piloting a Organicycle composting program. So if you go to the market on Saturdays, you can actually sign up and start bringing your compost there. And I know that we're talking about getting those waste sites kind of more so in Grand Haven as well. And I think that will really start to push the waste haulers more and more in the direction that the people are asking for. Like we live here in the Great Lakes. We want to take care of our beaches. We want to take care of, all of our environment. We want to hike. We want to play. We want our dogs to not get into weird stuff in the woods. Like it seems so simple. So we'll just keep pushing on it and continue to plan events and make sure that we can get there. Thank you.
Hey, I'll just add a couple of thoughts. Most of our stuff that we're talking about today leaves our facility and we don't see it come back, right? So if our customers have feedback, it's really them bringing that initiative into the restaurant next time they come. And I don't think we receive much feedback about the products that we're using. I feel like if we were using styrofoam, we would probably get a lot of feedback from our typical customer. But a couple of things I wanted to highlight. One, the mention of waste audit just made me think of, it can feel overwhelming to start something new, and where do you find the human resources to do that? When we've had special projects like that, we've almost always brought on an intern, and it could be a staff who wants an internship, or it could be someone from one of the local schools. I'm a big believer in internships because it benefits us, but it also benefits, a student in having something to build on their resume. So we have had interns do waste audits before as part of other work that they're doing, and those are just great mutually beneficial opportunities. The other thing I would say, just as far as like, how do you even know where to go, and where can you get these kinds of products, or where can you find a composter? In GR, at least, there's a bunch of us within the restaurant industry we have like a Facebook chat that we ping each other on quite often. And I think in general, hospitality is a pretty friendly industry where if you just ask another restaurant person what they're doing, usually they will reach out and say, oh, here's what I'm using, right? We're all sort of competitors, but we're also, we need each other for many reasons. And I think the more open we are with sharing our stories with each other, the better off we all are.
Thank you, Kris. And you said something just now on internships. You said if your staff might have an interest. Is that something that you've done much, and provide an opportunity for your staff to upskill through those internships?
We have offered staff for sure to like do the internship that we're hiring for. Most of the time it's not a staff member who does it though, but
Okay.
it's available to them. I think a lot of our staff are more, they're career focused within hospitality, but yeah, I mean, that has been something. Or we'll have staff leave to go back to school to work on sustainability, as an education, and then they come back to us and we'll do an internship because we have an established relationship. So,
Thank you, Kris. Do any of you have any trash sorting learning games? So apps, web games, or customer activities. This is something that's coming out of our Q&A today. And I think maybe keep it to the food service space, but if there are things that you are recommending that you might recommend to your customers or are kind of seeing out there peripherally, I think I'd invite that too.
It's not a game necessarily, but if people aren't familiar with the Recycle Coach app, it's usually like an organization or a municipality will like purchase a membership with Recycle Coach. So I'm pretty sure Grand Rapids uses it. I know Kalamazoo uses it. So it's a great resource to like send people there to look for answers on what can go where. And it's mostly for like your curbside, which will mimic what typically you'll see for like your restaurant haulers as well. So that's a good one. But otherwise, I have used for like cafe settings or restaurant settings, I have done like really custom games. Like literally I've sat down and cut out little pictures of things and then made little pretend bins. Like it's fun. Maybe it's a little over the top. There's a bunch of apps now too, though, that you can just give people little buttons. Like a bunch of people in a room can log in and you can just like hold up an item and say like, is this compostable? Yes or no? And then people can answer it. So that might be a fun way to do that kind of training session too. I've done that with students in some classes and they really enjoy it. So I could see that really working well for like a restaurant training session.
I could say we have done that as like a staff internal, is gum something you can put in the compost? And like, for the most part, gum is not something you should put in the compost, right? But it's having that conversation and helping your staff like stop and think about it for a minute. And having good signage. I didn't show any pictures of signage that we have, but a lot of ours is really our staff training other staff to do things well. This is not the type of game that I think the question asked about, but something that we have within our facility is a wand that can detect metal. So if you think about how much silverware is accidentally thrown into compost or trash at restaurants, it's a little bit sad because silverware is expensive, but it's also something that, you just don't need to see in the landfill or at the compost place. So wanding the trash bins, I think, is something every restaurant should think about as like a end of night thing. And then this is just a side note because I forgot to mention it earlier, but a great thing about our composting partner is they will tell us if our compost that we're sending them is contaminated, right? And then we know we have a training issue. So back to the point of making sure you have good partners, the team over at Organicycle is great because it's in their best interest for our compost to be not contaminated, but they also help us to see, you guys must have got some recyclable cups in instead of compostable, and your staff haven't figured out that, those are two different things. So they're really great at communicating those issues back to us.
And so when you say wanding, do you mean like the one that's okay? I am learning a lot today. So in a general way, Kris, you mentioned this earlier. And you said you don't receive a lot of customer feedback. So I am wondering, between the three of you, like to the degree that you do read it, how do you gather and use customer feedback? This is something that's coming from the chat, the Q&A as well, about your foodware, usability, durability, perceptions of safety, and has that feedback ever led you to change materials practices? And I think maybe also I just asked, like, do you get any feedback in general about what you're using presently?
We get a lot of feedback about things not related to this topic.
Okay.
Some of it welcome and some of it, less welcome. But I really don't think we do. That said, I'm not in the restaurant serving people on a regular basis, but I think if we were to hear trends in information from our customers, our staff would, raise an alarm and or raise a flag. And we have had, a lot of conversations with staff about why do we choose to use what we do and what's the benefit and those things. So our input system is generally a staff one.
Yeah, Brittany and Kate, same question.
I don't feel like we're getting much feedback from the customers themselves. But I was gonna note it's kind of on this topic, but when it comes to sometimes like compostable and recyclable packaging, it doesn't always work the way that you want it to. The cup melts or breaks or, different things. So it took a while for us to find, a company that we could work with that would create a high quality product for us. And just this last week, we were having some trouble because the new lid wasn't fitting on the cup. And at that point, you have to go back to the supplier and you've got a good relationship with them. Hopefully, we order almost all of our to go packaging from them. And, it's hard. Like I had to send them videos. I mean, they're in a different time zone and our cups are splashing, people are spilling, like these are problems, right? And like Kris mentioned BBC, having a vendor that's that close to home who could give me a lid that fit the cup within 24 hours was such a huge deal to be able to just fix that so fast. And so I guess I'm saying that like when feedback does come in, I do take it super seriously and try to make sure that it's usable because we need these products to be accessible for everyone. And at that time, that lid wasn't going to work for someone who even had arthritis. It wouldn't even be able to put the lid on. It was so difficult. So,
Right.
yeah, solving the problem as quick as we can. And other than that, I don't think we get much feedback. My colleagues might be experiencing more when they, receive the square comments regularly, but I don't think people challenge us much on it because we are transparent about it. We talk about it a lot in social media. We encourage the reusable cups. And really, if you're complaining that the lid's not going to fit, love to see you get the silicone lid on your Guy Star cup because then you don't have the problem. It fits perfect. So.
And Dr. Martini, I think you're going to have the last word today. Also, and as you bring us to a close, uh, maybe if you'd like to comment on something Kris said about like she doesn't hear a lot of commentary now, but if she was using expanded polystyrene, so styrofoam instead, she probably would hear some comments. And so maybe as you frame your answer, think about to the degree that these practices do communicate certain things about, to your customers.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue because I think the point that I wanted to make, like what we see on campus kind of reflects a bit what customers are seeing you do with your waste and the decisions you're making reflects so much on your organization. Like we see students give feedback all the time about how fantastic and green our university is. And it's overly positive sometimes. And I think it's because they see these really fancy bins with all this signage and like they can tell that there's a lot of effort and thought going into that. So I think as you think about what decisions you're making on your systems and your disposable items and the intention behind all of that, it's just a very front-facing way for customers to see where your heart is about these kinds of issues. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Again, Dr. Kate Martini, Western Michigan University, Brittany Goode, Aldea Coffee. If you're in Grand Haven or Muskegon, I'm sure you've had an opportunity to check them out. If not, please do. And if you get to the Lake Shore in the near future, please stop them by. And then, of course, Brewery, Vivant, and Broadleaf from Grand Rapids. Thank you so much, Kris Spaulding. For everyone here today, appreciate you spending your morning on this greenest of green days. And look forward to seeing you in our next session of the webinar series coming up in a few weeks here.